Friends, today we have brought you a beautiful story. The London Tomb of the Highgate Vampire, 1970s. So let's get to the story. They say curiosity killed the cat. But in this story, it wasn't a cat at all. It was a journalist. A man who went searching for a headline and instead found himself hunted by something he could never explain. This is the chilling tale of the Haunting of Highgate Cemetery. Highgate Cemetery sits in North London, just about 3 miles from the heart of the city. To most people, it might look like just another Victorian graveyard. But when you step through its gates, you know, right away, this place is different. The gates themselves are carved with eerie imagery. Moss creeps across the crumbling stone. Ivy strangles iron fences. Angels and gargoyles loom from every corner. Over 200,000 souls are buried here. And some of them are names you'd recognize: Karl Marx, George Eliot, even the parents of Virginia. Wolf, some say, Wolf's ghost herself still lingers near their graves. But it isn't Wolf, or Marx, or any of the famous dead who have made Highgate infamous. No. It's something else entirely. Something darker. Something people still whisper about to this day. They call it the Highgate Vampire. In the 1970s, this cemetery wasn't just a place of rest. It became a place of rumors of satanic rituals, of blood drinking, even of werewolves stalking among the tombstones. The tabloids had a field day. But was any of it real? Or was it all the invention of journalists who wanted to sell papers? Well, that's where our story begins. In 1970, a writer named Eric Gesson, a journalist and author, decided to write about Highgate for Reader's Digest. To him, it looked creepy enough to inspire a good ghost story. He wrote about a supposed curse on the cemetery. He called his piece Satan's Playground. And while the title may sound a little clickbait by today's standards, for the 1970s, it was enough to grab attention. The article was a hit, but it also grabbed the attention of someone else. A young man, 24 years old. His name was Wilfred Richard Hagator Richard, to his friends. And Richard told Gesson something incredible. He said, "I can take you to a real satanic ritual inside Highgate Cemetery." Now, Gesson was intrigued. This was the kind of story every journalist dreams about. He agreed. And late one night, he and Richard snuck into Highgate Cemetery. The air was cold. The trees seemed to whisper above them. The ground crunched underfoot as Richard led him to a mausoleum. That was where the ritual was supposed to take place. They hid in the shadows, and they waited. But nothing happened. No candles, no chanting, no robed figures. Just silence. Richard fidgeted nervously. He kept glancing over his shoulder as though someone or something was watching. Finally, he whispered to Gesson, "We should leave." So they did. They slipped out of the cemetery and drove back. Gesson assumed maybe the meeting had been planned for another night. But a few days later, he got the news. Richard was dead. His body was found on March 16th, 1971, in that same mausoleum. He had been stabbed repeatedly. His clothing stripped. His heart torn out of his chest. Police later recovered his clothes nearby. But one shoe was missing. That shoe wouldn't be found for another 5 years? Still on the bones of a skeleton. Now here's the question. Was Richard the victim of a madman? Or was he silenced by something far more sinister? And Gesson he wasn't free of this story yet. Because now, he had a stalker. Someone who followed him. Someone who wanted him dead. And Highgate's horrors were only just beginning. As the press got wind of Richard's murder, the stories started pouring in. People claimed they saw witches holding ceremonies in the cemetery, graves desecrated, corpses dug up and mutilated. Some even whispered of werewolves roaming among the tombs. The idea of a satanic cult meeting in Highgate began to take hold. One reporter, Guy Lyon Playfair, who worked for the Evening Standard, was especially convinced. He wrote, and I quote, "I have often been told by those who live near Highgate Cemetery and have seen the monsters that there are at least 3 vampires living in the West Cemetery. That in the early hours of the morning between midnight and 1:00 one can hear the sound of screams, groans, and howls coming from the graves." Now, whether Playfair truly believed what he was writing, or was simply trying to sell papers, we may never know. But his words only added fuel to the fire. Soon, paranormal investigators swarmed the place. Amateur ghost hunters, reporters, thrill seekers, each one hoping to catch a glimpse of the supernatural. One of them was a man named Gingrich. He and 2 companions decided to spend the night inside Highgate. According to his account, it wasn't long before they heard something. Chains dragging across stone. A dog barking furiously at something none of them could see. And then, glowing eyes staring at them from the bushes. The men shone their flashlight into the dark. The eyes vanished. But moments later, they saw it. A pale, gaunt face! White as death, wearing what looked like a hooded jerkin and a girdle. The figure snarled, bared its teeth, and disappeared. The 3 men didn't stick around. But if that wasn't enough, stranger stories followed. In June of 1971, a local man named David Fido was walking home when he saw something unusual. A woman carrying a little girl. Only the girl didn't look right. Her head was far too large. She was bald, except for a single tuft of hair. She seemed to have no neck at all. As Fido watched, the woman turned a corner. By the time he caught up, the girl was lying beside an open grave. Her head had rolled off. Police arrived quickly, but what they found wasn't a body at all. It was a wax dummy used for medical training. A hoax. Or was it? Some whispered that the wax dummy had been planted to cover up the real crime. A young girl taken by the cult. As it turned out, this particular story had been staged by 2 journalists, William Hope and Ellen Brooks. They admitted later that it was a publicity stunt, meant to boost circulation of the Evening Standard, but the public didn't care. By then, the legend of the Highgate vampire had taken on a life of its own. Over the years, more sightings piled up. Tales of a mysterious black dog stalking the graves, of figures vanishing into the night, of glowing eyes, and whispers in the dark. And tangled in all of this, rival journalists, each one accusing the other of lies, hoax, and worse. Gingrich, Brooks, Hope, even a researcher named David Conway, who swore he once saw a man in the cemetery he later learned had died months earlier. Had Conway seen a ghost? Or just another trick? And let's not forget Richard Haggard. His brutal death was real. His heart ripped out, his life cut short. That was no hoax. So what really happened in Highgate? Was it the work of a satanic cult, journalistic fraud, or was there truly something in those tombs? Something dark and hungry that still lingers there today? We may never know the truth, but if you ever find yourself in London, standing outside the ivy-covered gates of Highgate Cemetery, ask yourself one thing. Would you dare step inside?